This presentation covers social innovations that One Acre Fund has introduced to Eastern Africa, including improvements in subsistence farming and training and improved markets for those people. One Acre Fund is a nonprofit and it's focused specifically on Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and Malawi. So what is the issue? Why did they start this? The issue is the inability of the subsistence farmers, which subsistence farming is a huge deal in Africa. These people, it's about their only way to live and to feed themselves and their families. So for generations, they've been farming on this land, and they're barely able to make a living. They're barely able to grow enough food for themselves, let alone sell any to grow their farms or support their families in any other way. There are actually a lot of farmers that go hungry and don't have meals on a day-to-day basis. So One Acre Farm came along and they introduced essentially a co-op. A co-op is something that's well known in America. In America, farmers will often join together to have better access to seeds, fertilizer, training, markets, and that's what One Acre Farm did. Is they came along and they said, okay, we're going to provide these farmers with all these things, and it's worked relatively well. Um, Over 500,000 families, and this is 2017 going into 2018, have increased their income. This means that over 1 million people have been impacted because of this. There have been improvements in planting and fertilizing, and this is largely due to the training and the improved access to these materials. There's a story of one farmer where he was just broadcasting his seeds in his field. This was before he met One Acre Fund, and he was getting a really poor yield. He wasn't using fertilizer, but as soon as he met One Acre Fund, he started introducing spacing into his farming, spacing between the seeds, as well as straight rows. And this, combined with fertilizer and access to fertilizer, has improved his output by a large margin. But there have been some issues because of the relatively new nature of this innovation. Many of the farmers feel that they don't have a say in it. The training is very rigorous and very strict, and One Acre Fund especially has received a lot of criticism for pushing the farmers, and the farmers feel like they're being demanded or being required without their will to harvest at certain times and to plant in certain ways. They do admit, though, that, and there is proof, that income and stability has improved by a large margin. There's something called an SROI, which is it's an impact generator. An SROI is a social return on investment, and to measure this, they want a $4 incremental profit for every $1 in donor subsidy that's put in. So they are relying on donor subsidies for this. But at least within One Acre Fund, they take the amount of total income, and they divide it by the amount in donor funds. So if they spent $2 million in donor funds and there was $100 of income per new farmer with 100,000 farmers, then you'd have an SROI of 5. and they're shooting for an SROI of roughly 4. So according to their charts, they are meeting this. And you can see here their impact per farmer, they've actually increased the amount of income that's coming in. So there are results coming from this innovation. But even with these successes, there have been some failures. Back in 2016, there was a huge drought that set back both One Acre Fund and the innovation in general, killed a lot of crops, and it wasted a lot of money. They had to increase the amount of money they were putting in per farmer, and the amount that came out, the income decreased quite substantially. So, what would I do to improve this? I'd turn it into more of a voluntary cooperative. I would take the social innovation, I'd say, okay, this, we're going to give farmers a say in their harvest times because within their culture, they oftentimes harvest part of the crop early in order to feed their families right then and to sell some. There's actually a couple of uses for maize that's harvested early. And I would give them say in order to be able to do that. I would also turn it into a for-profit venture that didn't rely as much on donors because donors, it's not a sustainable method. It's not self-sustaining anyways. So I would make it self-sustainable. I would also introduce fertilizer production plants into Eastern Africa, into Kenya, into Tanzania, into all these areas. And I would train the people on how to produce the fertilizer. This would bring jobs, this would bring greater self-sustainability, and it would allow scale. It would allow you to scale the innovation out. I do believe it's a good innovation. I just believe that it is in its infancy and it has a lot of improvement that it can do.